And so, as I was saying before on the reel, the reason they went global with the dead girl is because Pacific work was not Pacific. It wasn't a peaceful job. Not on 92 and above, or the barrels or retirements, not on 85 runnings and flyings, defending the barrels, knowing I was going to die on the coastline, so forth. These space breaks they were talking about, Jamila, and they keep saying, rehashing of a dead baby with a DELF social security number, which is a national ID, bitches. I'm the Indios. I'm not Eindhoven. We're not retarded, you know. So Imprimo stands simply for that. Now, what global means is that there's so many fucking assholes and bitches in California that we're just going to continue voiding global, the ghost lines. So when the FBI was curious about the variants of me, they wasn't curious. They already had the intel. They could have made variants themselves, other than Woolwich Inner Circle lookalikes, or Dirk-Jan van Dam, The Hague, Bureau de Veritas for me. Politano mass media all news, on the news voids. That girl's dead on the coastlines. I'm her Disneyland version, with that's why it's a social security number. In other words, that's old news on the news, but about 70 countries and 30 states connect the dots. The fact that it's voiding on your coastlines in California is what pissing you off, you fucking whores. Okay, dolphs, let's go back to kindergarten retard. Why are they doing that? They're doing that because there's a lot of bitches and assholes in California who don't think on the coastlines, just like in Fresno areas. You see? So when Disneyland appeared, they saw void. In Rome, in London, in Essen, and in on the coastlines of California. I knew about 9/11 because I was an insider, so obviously. The thing that we're talking about is the coastlines. We're talking about people who are careerists from that side, and in a problem like Peter Beneff and the CIA generals, who he's a professor over there, Charleston or something in North South Carolinas anyway, and he was with Gabor, like best friends with Gabor on 13th Crescent Road, and he just said, "This is fucking nuts. This is fucking nuts." And Dirk-Jan van Dam was there, Bureau de Veritas from The Hague, again and again and again, when I was 20 years old, 17, 16. You see, once you lose that intel on the ghost lines, we're going to void. Global holds because if you're going to kill space records and Nobel Prizes, and science records, including some cheap-ass Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and the last biological shit on the lowlands, for Jamila, who's already dead, we're going to fucking sue your ass with a DELF national ID. And we're going to have every right to void on the projects of the coastlines, global. White hairs on the coastlines, okay, boom, boom, old news on the news, Politano mass media. And as for Fresno areas, the retirements of the barons with the hanging benches from pioneer camps beyond the capital cities, born there. Directorates and humanitarian relief services. And when I was in Langley, the hernia, I went like this and like this to the CIA headquarters. Okay? With the hanging benches of Lara Quintas, that many flyings, 92 and above, 85 runnings and flyings, and the crawlies of the job, separate from the work on the coastlines, their retirements. In other words, the DOJ of the Central. If you go ask them, why? In other words, what the fuck? Why don't we stay in Rome, the John Bennett film, where retirement's much more convenient for everybody. The busters of the bust. In fact, the most convenient, according to everybody on the planet, is to space bomb Fresno with the Havana. The coastlines is much more than the Havana. And as for the Manhattan Project, that's going to go, it's already been global since 85. With high probability, they could see it coming for me. Okay? So multitasking, I don't think so. Family is more important. So, yes, it's famous, it's beyond famous, it's known, it's beyond known, beyond famous. And Fresno is what Fresno is. Fresno areas. Okay? Many things. And if you think that the worlds are retarded, and the governments are retarded, and their agencies are retarded, And the CIA headquarters, 92 and above, full building in DC Langley and their countries. And on top of that room, and Woolwich by extension, where you have the corporations of Spaces and Sciences in the UN and in London and Woolwich, where I used to be, Martin Snowden with no eyebrows. Old news on the news is for me. Old issue, Delph. So much for The Hague. Bureau de Veritas del Canada. You have no respect for that. So you see the Disneyland version of me with the Delph number and you think you can be normal in Frisco, Fresno, correct? But what about the tagalongs? The mental retards? That's not even the fucking crazies. Intel, Fresno County et al.'s of its own. If Tom and Jerry Darrell says to you he's CIA and FBI, you're nuts. You're more nuts than I thought. You take your head out your ass in America and find out what's happening in your own country, especially on the coastlines, if I were you global. Because that's old news on the news, and I don't even think you know what that girl did with a Delph Social Security number. Because if you knew, you'd back away from me, from the Indios itself. Instead, you're sending tagalongs and crazies at the homeless centers. I just got myself a job at the financial districts and a full-time. They're going to keep it $1,000 a month. I got Turk Avenue, the building right next to the FBI. 1 month, 2 month, I'm out of Dolores. 4 years of trekking, and I have no problems. Plus 3 years and a half in REM. The Mediterranean, Berlin, and other places. Forget about Czechoslovakia and Poland. They're sort of backward, okay? They got the mother out. To Poland, they shot 4 times in Poland for the cleanest record in Polish history to Moscow.